He dreamed of marrying a virgin, although he believed it was almost impossible in a town full of casual encounters and prostitution. In the nearby town of Lumai, two orphan sisters, Lena and Nia, faced immense hardship. 26-year-old Lena resorted to prostitution to support herself and her younger sister, 24-year-old Nia, who stayed at home to maintain her moral principles. One day, Lena fell ill and pressured Nia to fill in for her. Reluctantly, Nia agreed, driven by desperation and fear of becoming homeless. That night, Nia stood on the side of the road, dressed in Lena's revealing clothes and jewelry, feeling bitter and scared. David, driving his luxury car, noticed Nia and pulled over. He asked her how much she charged for one night, and Nia, still resentful, reluctantly mentioned her price. He invited her into the car, and as they drove, David began to touch her legs, complimenting her beauty. Despite her irritation, Nia forced a smile, hiding her true feelings. At the hotel, David suggested going to a club first. Nia refused, but David promised more money, and she reluctantly accepted. At the club, David offered her a drink, but Nia declined, saying she didn't drink and wasn't familiar with such places. David insisted, and finally, Nia felt pressured to drink. Drunk and unable to function properly, Nia was driven back to the hotel by David. Noticing her intoxication, he gently placed her on the bed. When he returned after freshening up, he tried to wake her, but she was too drunk to respond. Then, he undressed her and himself. Despite her protestations about being a virgin, David dismissed her words, thinking she was lying. He proceeded with his actions, ignoring her continued objections. In the morning, David awoke to find Nia gone, leaving behind bloodstains and a necklace. Shocked and guilt-ridden, he realized that she had told the truth about her virginity. Overwhelmed with remorse, he decided he had to find her and apologize. Meanwhile, Nia, embarrassed and confused, returned home, determined not to repeat the experience. She handed the money to Lena, who was pleased despite Nia's obvious distress. Nia vowed never to go through a similar experience again. David deeply regretted taking Nia's virginity for money. He found her necklace in the hotel room and decided he had to find her and apologize. Meanwhile, Nia woke up feeling ashamed and quickly left the hotel, avoiding David and anyone else that night. She returned home, feeling dejected and determined not to repeat the experience. She handed the money to Lena, who was delighted by the large amount, despite noticing Nia's obvious distress. Nia, still in pain from the previous night, went to take a bath. Lena, seeing her sister's discomfort, laughed and told her she would get used to it if she kept doing that kind of work. From the bathroom, Nia firmly rejected Lena's suggestion, vowing never to do it again. She cried in the shower, feeling cheap and ashamed of what had happened. David ran through the streets with Nia's necklace, searching for her. His search proved fruitless and he returned home, unable to get the memory of Nia pleading with him out of his head, saying she wasn't a street girl. Guilt weighed on him, making him restless throughout the day. He returned to the place where he had picked her up, hoping to find her, but she was not there. Desperate, he described Nia to other girls who worked in the area, but none of them knew her. David realized he didn't know Nia's name, phone number, or where she lived. The necklace she had left behind was his only clue. For 2 weeks, David searched for Nia, struggling to function without his usual encounters. Her beauty, innocence, and the guilt of what he had done haunted him. Eventually, David tried to return to his normal routine. One night, he picked up another girl off the street and took her to a hotel, but as soon as she tried to approach him, it was as if he was seeing Nia. He smiled at the memory, but when the new girl touched him, he realized he was different and felt irritated. This reaction was unusual for David, who had never felt this way before. Frustrated and unable to forget Nia, he offered the girl on the street money to leave and decided to hang out with his friends instead. While he was with his friends, he felt depressed but could not admit that he was in love with a girl he had met on the street. He knew his friends would tease him about it. One of his friends, Luca, noticed David's mood and tried to cheer him up. When Luca showed him a picture of a beautiful girl on Facebook, David wasn't interested at first, but Luca insisted, and when David looked at the picture, he saw Lena wearing the same necklace that Nia had left behind. David saw the girl in the photo, Lena, wearing Nia's necklace and asked Luca for a screenshot of her profile. At home, David checked Lena's profile and saw her resemblance to Nia. Feeling hopeful, he wrote down her phone number and tried to call her, but she didn't answer. The next day, he called again, and this time Lena answered. David introduced himself and apologized for taking her virginity for money, wanting to return the necklace. Lena, realizing he meant Nia, played along. She asked him how he had gotten her number, and he explained that he found it on Facebook. They agreed to meet at a mall to exchange the necklace. At the mall, David noticed differences between Lena and Nia, but apologized again, urging her not to return to the streets. Lena explained that she had to do this because of her aunt's demands. David offered her enough money to find housing and start a business, so she wouldn't have to return to the streets. Grateful, Lena accepted a large check from David before saying goodbye. Upon returning home, David felt a difference in his connection with Lena compared to Nia. He couldn't shake the feeling that Lena seemed more exposed, attributing it to the long time they had been apart. Meanwhile, Lena was feeling incredibly excited about her newfound fortune. She thought to herself, "I've hit the jackpot. Not only will I not have to live here, but I'll also be able to get a store and have a handsome, rich guy like David." A few days later, Lena began packing up her things. When Nia asked where she was going, Lena aggressively responded, "I'm finding my own way. I can't keep staying in this dirty place." Nia pleaded with her to at least tell her where she was going, but Lena refused to share details. Lena moved to a new house outside of town, leaving Nia alone and struggling. Lena started a large clothing and jewelry business. David continued to communicate with Lena by phone and was happy to hear that she was doing well. However, he still felt that something was missing. David decided to take Lena home and show her where he lived. To her surprise, he lived alone. Lena's eyes grew wide and she smiled to herself, realizing that her life had changed for the better. David supported Lena financially so that she would not be poor. One day, David arrived at work and found his workplace in disarray. He asked his secretary why the cleaner had not shown up, but was told that he had stopped coming. The secretary quickly cleaned up the office. David told her to advertise a position for a cleaner outside the office. Since Lena left, Nia had been looking for work outside her village near the city to make ends meet. She immediately applied for David's office cleaner position after seeing the sign. Nia applied for David's office cleaner job and was hired the next day. She quickly swept the workplace after arriving late. David instructed his secretary to contact the new cleaner to clean his dusty desk and clean the place. Nia cleaned the table and chairs in the office while David called. She accidentally knocked over a phone, forcing her and David to bend down to pick it up. When they looked at each other, they recognized each other's faces after butting heads. Nia tried to flee the office after seeing David, but David grabbed her around the waist. Nia apologized for being late. David noticed the same innocence on her face as the night they met. David felt a great connection with Nia and understood that she was special. He asked her why she was there after opening a big deal for her. Nia said, "I'm sorry, sir. Please let me go." While David was questioning Nia, Lena called out to him. When Nia was nearby, they talked. David was astonished and asked Nia who she was after the call. Nia was trembling and begged him to let her go. David told her he wouldn't hurt her and made her sit down. He then asked her if she had a twin sister, but Nia said she only had an older sister who looked like her and that they were sometimes mistaken for twins. David, still surprised, asked her name, and she said Nia. David showed her the photo Luca had sent him earlier. "You forgot this necklace at the hotel. Aren't you wearing the necklace in this picture?" asked David. "That's my older sister," Nia said. "You have her picture on your phone." David said, "Never mind," and walked over to her. He actually apologized for hurting her that night and said he had been looking for her ever since. He apologized for stealing her virginity and asked Nia to forgive him. David begged for her forgiveness, even though Nia claimed he had paid for the services. He asked for her phone number, but Nia had none. He asked for her address, but she said the place had no address. Despite their conversation, Nia wanted to work since she had other offices to clean. David threw the rag away and told Nia he would not clean anymore. After buying a phone, he took her home. David saw the pictures of Nia and Lena on the wall and the deplorable state of the room when they arrived. While watching the footage, the landlord went so far as to throw away Nia's possessions as she owed rent for over 5 months. David tried to argue with the landlord, but he ignored him. David picked up Nia's things and took her home. David took Nia and her belongings home, feeling mixed emotions. Nia was grateful for his help, but also overwhelmed by the sudden change. Noticing her discomfort, David decided to find her a better place to stay. He called his lawyer to arrange housing for her. While he was on the phone, Nia walked in, curious about his intentions. David quickly ended the call and assured her that he didn't expect anything in return and just wanted to help her. Nia, still unsure, suggested that if David had taken her there just to be intimate with her, he couldn't stay. David responded firmly, saying that he had called his lawyer to find her a better place to live and confessed his feelings for her, admitting that he liked her and was even in love with her. He emphasized that he would not force her to accept his feelings and promised to help her, regardless of their relationship. The next day, David and Nia went to look at different apartments. David said he would pay for the one Nia liked best. They visited several places, but Nia didn't like any of them. Despite the nice and expensive apartments, she felt safer with David and began to think about staying with him. Back home, Nia asked David to promise not to be physical with her. David agreed, expressing his love and gratitude for changing his ways. He told her that their intimacy would always be with her consent. Curious about her past, David asked Nia to share more about herself. She told him that both her parents had passed away, leaving her alone with her older sister. Life in their village was difficult, so they decided to move to the city to try to make a living. They had a plan to work hard, but unfortunately, his sister ended up on the streets. Despite this, her sister always took care of the bills. However, the day Nia ended up on the streets, her sister was sick and unable to work. Nia felt pressured to go out and find money to make ends meet, and her sister even threatened to kick her out if she couldn't go. With nowhere else to go, Nia had no choice but to join her sister on the street. As Nia told her story, tears filled her eyes. David felt a surge of empathy and embraced her, sharing her difficult experience. Nia then asked David why he had been womanizing. He explained that many women were interested in him for his money, with some even cheating on him. To avoid such women, he thought it best to choose girls from the street, believing they might be more genuine and not behind their wealth. Nia comforted David, and they shared a heartfelt hug. Lena called David for a week, but he ignored her as he knew she was faking it. Lena visited him at his home, despite his avoidance. After a heartfelt conversation, Nia and David became friends, and she felt safer with him. One day, while they were relaxing at David's house, Lena showed up unexpectedly. Lena was surprised to see Nia there and, furious, asked her why she was at David's house. Nia explained that David was helping her find a place to stay because she had nowhere else to go. Lena, although initially angry, calmed down a bit, but was upset with David for taking Nia to his house. David explained that Nia needed a place to stay after Lena abandoned her and pretended to be her. Confused, Nia did not understand this accusation. Lena, trying to take her away, was stopped by David, who ordered her to leave Nia alone. Furious, Lena left the house planning how to get rid of Nia. Lena turned to her relatives in town for help and, lying about the situation, convinced them to help her kidnap Nia. When Lena and her relatives arrived at David's house, he was gone. Nia let them in, and although Lena's relatives initially sought to benefit from David's wealth, they recognized that they could not forcibly remove her without legal consequences. When David returned home, Nia's relatives told him that it was against their culture for a woman to live with a man who was not her husband. David, surprising them all, declared his desire to marry Nia. This infuriated Lena, but Nia's relatives accepted the proposal and David undertook to visit her village to take the marriage list. Lena, defeated, left with her family. Nia, upset by David's decision to get engaged without consulting her, argued with him and felt overwhelmed. However, David apologized the next day, expressing his strong desire to be with her and promising never to hurt her again. Lena, still furious, continued to plot against Nia. She called in old friends to cause more trouble, but David remained patient, waiting for Nia to recognize his sincerity. In the days that followed, David and Nia got to know each other better, and David promised to support her in achieving her aspirations. Lena, not giving up, began to spread damaging rumors about Nia, affecting her reputation. When David found out about the rumors, he investigated and discovered that Lena was responsible. He confronted her and ordered her to stop lying and leave Nia alone. Despite her failed attempts, Lena withdrew in bitterness. With David's continued support, Nia began to consider a future with him. Her confidence grew, and she felt more secure with David by her side. David surprised Nia with a rooftop dinner and proposed to her. Although initially hesitant, Nia happily accepted. The news of their engagement further infuriated Lena, who planned a misunderstanding to ruin Nia's happiness. Lena sent anonymous messages to Nia, pretending to be a woman who had dated David, and lying about her infidelity. Disturbed, Nia doubted David, but he suggested they confront Lena together. At Lena's new store, she finally admitted to sending the messages, motivated by her hatred for Nia's happiness. Nia, angry and full of pity, ordered Lena to move on. David also advised her to leave them alone. With Lena out of their lives, David and Nia focused on their wedding and building a future together. They planned their wedding, picked a venue, and sent out invitations. David's friends, who had initially teased him for settling down, now supported him unconditionally. Nia was also welcomed into David's circle, feeling a sense of belonging that she had longed for. Although still dealing with memories of her past, Nia found comfort in David's love. The wedding was an intimate and heartfelt ceremony, followed by a joyous reception. David and Nia reflected on their journey and felt grateful for the love that had brought them together. Their life as a married couple began harmoniously. They settled into a routine, supporting each other and growing together. David continued to excel in his career, while Nia found fulfillment in starting a small handmade jewelry business. Their love and support for each other created an environment conducive to their prosperity. They spent their weekends exploring new places and enjoying their time together. Their home was filled with laughter, warmth, and mutual respect. Despite occasional challenges, David and Nia handled them with grace and understanding, strengthening their communication and facing each obstacle as a united front. Nia's past no longer haunted her, finding peace in the present thanks to David's unwavering support. Eventually, they started a family and welcomed 2 beautiful children. Parenthood brought new joys and responsibilities, further cementing their relationship. David and Nia embraced their roles as parents, providing a loving and stable home for their children. Looking back, they felt immense gratitude for the love that had brought them together and knew that their strength lay in their ability to overcome adversity together. David and Nia demonstrated that with genuine commitment and understanding, even the most challenging paths could lead to a full and joyful life. As they looked to the future, they remained hopeful and excited about the endless possibilities that awaited them, confident that together they could face anything.